Okay,
All
can
right.
everyone? I'm never good at this. Simple things, right? Um, okay, good. Okay. So, hi, I'm Zoe Braderman. I am an OWASP NYC chapter leader and a co-author of the Threat Modeling Manifesto and um, a co-leader of the new blockchain AppSec standard, which is very much at the beginning phase, but looking forward to continuing to develop it as we have more content and time. Let's face it. So I'm going to talk about securely diving in with vibe coding, because as we discussed at the beginning during the networking portion, um, it's increasingly used in terms, to get things done on time. And there are a lot of uncertainties associated with vibe coding, particularly when it comes to security. But I really wanted to use this as an opportunity to empower new developers to learn security as they code and specifically as they vibe code. So we're going to talk about how vibe
Zoe,
coding
I
increases
think you're still not
productivity.
sharing your slide deck.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
not, maybe I'm still showing. Okay, I stopped sharing, so okay, now I can see yours.
oh, okay. Sorry. Yes. So securely diving in with vibe coding. Get ready for the next phase of development. So who am I? I'm Zoe Braderman. I'm an IT security consultant and a Web3 executive, currently bridging technical and knowledge gaps between the worlds of Web2 and Web3. And I'm also a hackathon enthusiast. So inspirations for this talk include a lot of community posts and talk around vibe coding and security aspects, um, and recent hackathons and boot camps, and specifically in the blockchain space that were specifically using vibe coding and specifically encouraging the use of vibe coding to get things done, to get developer activity on their specific blockchains, and to do it really quickly, very concerningly quickly, from a security perspective. But, if you can't beat them, join them. So, um, I essentially did what I had to do, moving fast and breaking things. I had a lot of encouragement from our developer, Spencer, who introduced me to some of the vibe coding tools and encouraged me to actually use them. We are a very, very productive two pizza team. Oops. So what is vibe coding anyway? Um, so vibe coding is building with awareness of human experience, clarity, safety, and maintainability as shared values. Sharing in a very literal sense, in the sense that it allows us to directly have feedback loops between our own development environments with the World Wide Web and just, various sources of data. And um, what goes on in a given vibe coding session really depends on the human element, developer mood, design, ethics, security posture, and again, it's all interconnected and accounting for context while iterating. So the sources from within the IDE, within your code, directly feed in. That's not particularly new per se, but it can get faster and smoother with more innovative tools. And vibe coding and security, AI accelerates output, but can also accelerate vulnerabilities. Common AI assisted defects include injection bugs, broken auth, weak crypto, and insecure defaults. And secure vibe is AI coding tools plus guardrails. And those guardrails include security policies, AI training, and security verification. So guidance from expert humans, but also feeding in the right knowledge to the tools themselves and just figuring out how to use them for your specific project. So building security into your vibe coding workflow. So the flow of security energy. First, going off of the flow state in the psychological concept, which drives productivity. Vibe coding with intention. What are you building? And how are you going to go and achieve that? And how are you um, going to choose the right libraries again quickly? How are you going to implement whatever features you need to implement for the given project? And integrating guardrails within within your IDE, so secured IDE hints, linting, and AI assisted prompt packs. Replace fiction and awareness and intent. So input validation, off boundaries, context aware trust. Human layer of security. Again, that is always a factor. Um, most breaches trace back to human shortcuts under pressure. So it could be deadlines, it could be deadlines at work, it could be doing some sort of hackathon in order to either get recruited by a blockchain foundation as a developer, to get a grant, or just for any specific project, even just for learning. And viable line security culture includes psychological safety and technical rigor. So you need to essentially feel comfortable asking the right questions, and sometimes the questions are too um, to GPT. So not necessarily the same model as previously, to a colleague, to a to an external expert. Um, and those are some of the things that I think previously really kept us as developers grounded, because having those conversations really enhance self-awareness. And doing it yourself, I think, just has different connotations. So encourage pause moments. That's increasingly on you as the developer to figure out what you need to ask next, what you do and don't know, code review, threat modeling, self-check. Really like a series of questions. One question leads to another, and I think that is the human layer and the flow. And um, developers protect users best when they're not afraid to slow down. So slowing down enough, determining when to slow down. Um, there are, as long as you um, review something on time, and again, ask the right questions before pushing to production. Um, then you can afford to make some very human mistakes. And the security principles really are authenticity, writing code that represents intent clearly, and harmony. So minimizing entropy, reducing the attack surface. Attack surface minimization is something that, I mean, it's, you know, obviously each one of these is a very extensive concept, but figuring out what it means contextually using these tools. Resonance, um, align secure design with user trust, and that has implications for reputation. And silence, um, less code, fewer bugs, and smaller exploit window. And the secure vibe culture, um, it's emotional architecture. It again with you know, the confidence to ask the right questions and to iterate and feel trusts, and the trust people feel when the systems behave. Um, and of course, the extreme frustration when the systems do not behave, which is a big part of the process. Learning from failure and iterating quickly. And in teams, the feedback loops over checklists. And why is this such an important um, such an important principle? Because again, speed inevitably must be prioritized for developers. That is their incentive. And just being able to kind of reason as you go in chunks upon review. And in AI systems, explainability over opacity, in organizations, secure by vibe, consistent rhythm of care, clarity, and courage. Clarity is really big by design. You want to apply basic principles and architectures that make sense from the go. That's not vibe coding specifically, but you can apply what was discussed during threat modeling sessions and um, you know, your own design if you're kind of doing a hackathon, for example. And one potential specific flow is using the developer uses Cursor's AI powered editor to generate and refactor securely in real time, applying best practices directly as they code. And they can do this very, very explicitly and literally by referencing documentation such as the ASVS and the OWASP cheat sheet series, and then asking more specific questions as they come up. So, um, being able to reference specific files, for example, is very helpful because then you have actual context and having some sort of guidance and checking them against each other, asking more specific questions. And I'm really glad that before I started presenting, somebody mentioned that sometimes the corporate hierarchy has kind of been disrupted in terms of this, you know, SOC analyst role, for example, because um, sometimes, you know, jobs are replaced in part by AI, such that people don't make it to the point where they can really learn and progress as a SOC analyst. So, but you can always, for example, start a prompt with um, pretend I'm a SOC analyst, pretend I really on the other end, and then proceed with your prompt as a developer. So you can see how really what the security implications are by using that role and having roles of specific functions, specific jobs. There's a lot of data on that that can be referenced by ChatGPT, by really any of these tools, and just again keep asking questions. Um, you can also learn a lot about business logic as far as requirements go. So based on the type of application, in addition to the kind of technical context, like um, what you have so far with each of your in your code base. Um, Developer consults. Yes. So checking against OWASP standards and guides while vibe coding is a great way of learning, and because you're still referencing them by going and fetching them from the internet before directly referencing them in one of these tools, you can also engage with the community with the repositories, discover more content, more relevant cheat sheets, for example, and requirements and the community behind them, which is a major iterative feedback loop in of itself. Going and joining the OWASP Slack channel and asking actual humans then feeds into this loop too. It's not, in my little diagram so far, but I unfortunately had to make this quite quickly. Um, and yeah, so again, the resources, the community, again, asking the right questions in a very general sense, seeing how they apply, quoting Adam Shostak's 4 questions. What are we working on? What can go wrong? What are we going to do about it? Did we do a good job? Figuring out what that means to you and challenging yourself to really figure out what that means, get specific from the general. Using vibe coding is just a very powerful practice to get into. And that way you can code quickly. But then by the time, it essentially matters whether it means pushing code um, to production, having, a contract on chain, depending. Um, by that time, you can do your own review quite quickly, which is a very powerful tool. And just know that nothing is perfect, and there still is room for iteration no matter what. And yeah, so again, with these specific OWASP resources I mentioned during the previous slides, and also some of the new ones that were explained, for example, AI SPS, new AI specific projects, there are a lot of specific projects. I highly recommend just going through what OWASP has to offer and seeing what makes sense. There are a lot of mappings. And while that's not vibe code related, it really supplies the developer with the right knowledge to ask the right questions of a human um, and or in a vibe coding session. So highly recommend that always. Come to more meetings like this. And yes, so keep in touch. And I would love to know what some of your experiences are with vibe coding, because I really think it could mean so much to so many different people. I was really late because I was a little bit of a Luddite about it. With fear and it's just very novel. And
All right. So floor is open for questions and comments for Zoe. You can come off mute. If you can't, let me know and then I'll unmute your line and you can ask questions. I'm going to start resharing our slide just to make the screen a little bit relevant to this conversation. Right. Any comments, questions, feedback? And probably.
one point of feedback that I would love is like, what would you like to see in a more formal lesson? So not really the purpose of this talk, but a lesson on vibe coding for security. Um, I guess specific prompt examples. Um,
Can you hear me?
Anything else?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Uh, I had a question. Um, so I found using AI to problem solve troubleshooting can be useful. Also can just waste time. And it's kind of difficult to tell sometimes whether it'll help or hurt. I'm looking for uh, a, a guide for when, I should give up on AI and come back to it with maybe some keywords that'll actually help it understand what the problem is, or you know what I mean? And when is it helpful? When does it hurt in that
That's an
regard?
excellent question. I have yet to figure that out myself. I wouldn't be surprised if no one's figured it out per se, but yeah, I think just does has anyone else experienced some sort of I guess best practice for that? Because sometimes it honestly just can lead to um sleeplessness because you feel like there should be a way. You do want to troubleshoot it, and sometimes like what constitutes as a deadline is ambiguous, especially when you're growing a startup, for example. Or when you're doing those hackathons, how are you supposed to know when there's just nowhere, when there's, some sort of other more traditional resource that you just don't know of, or I think it's hard to define.
Yeah.
I think I'll share one of my own experiences when I was trying to create a script in an Excel spreadsheet, and I got a script, I put it in the uh, spreadsheet and ran it, and when I got errors, and as I was sharing the error messages with AI and getting more feedback, okay, now do this and now do this. I think after fourth or fifth time that it gave me a correction, I noticed that my VB script had ballooned to like 4 pages, and it's still erroring out every time. So I think being cognizant of not really fully following what it tells you to do and have sort of a stopping point would be helpful. So we usually keep probably put too much um, trust in the AI, and so be mindful that not everything that it tells you might be correct or true or relevant to your situation.
Right, right, right. And yeah, each of those aspects can be challenging, and none of them are easy to define. I guess in some ways that the relevance aspect is the most difficult, but in some ways, I mean, like really each of those facets is not simple.
Yeah. Anyone else has feedback or any comments? Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, do you have any recommendations on frameworks or tools that can be easily incorporated into existing projects for kind of giving a grounded response there? I've gotten into multi-agent coding recently, and I'm finding the more I can guide it with existing tool sets and libraries, the better quality results I get.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I would love to, I guess, chat offline because I'm not 100% sure what you're using so far. Whether, how many of them I may or may not have already tried. Um, but that kind of discussion is super.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm coming from a perspective of being a well-rounded broad architect and So security is definitely something I'm cognizant of, but I don't specialize in. So
All right.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
We have one more question from Bo. Go ahead, please.
It could be the question or comments. I have similar experience, like you mentioned, um, about creating a script and then keep growing bigger. So one thing I learned was implement a guardrail. All the things that you can think of could go wrong, or ask any AI agent that you're using to advise, and then try to build a guardrail first, and then before implementing anything, have the AI to read the guardrail first, and then implementation start, and then have the AI to do the testing multiple times until you get the satisfied result.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any comments? All right, I don't hear any questions coming in. Zoe, thank you very much again. One thing I also want to mention, Zoe has a weekly Thursday evening open talk channel on X. So Zoe, if you want to share a link to your or your handle on X, so anyone interested can attend and join, that would be awesome. So I've been able to join a few times, and conversations about cybersecurity, open. Anyone interested? That's a good forum for if you have spare time and you'd like to join. That would be fantastic.
Thank you so much for the shout out about
Of,
that. It was
of
really
course,
a pleasure to reconnect with you there and yeah, continue more of these great discussions.
of course.
Thank you all.
All right. Again, I would encourage, I shared the links for the OWASP Certified Secure Developer Project. I would highly encourage you guys to um, participate, have your voice heard, and provide feedback, especially if you know somebody that's a good developer and experienced developer. That's what they need more of to participate and provide feedback. So we would push it forward and have OWASP have a certification like most other organizations, similar organizations have. And with that, I would be happy to stay a little bit more. And if you guys want to open up to further conversation, the forum's open. Again, thank you, Zoe, for participating and giving a talk. And we'll see you everyone next month in November. We have, again, several upcoming events, which I would encourage you guys to do. So I will, let's see, share this slide one more time. We have DataCon LA coming up with 25% discount in CSU Long Beach, November 8th. We have our regular monthly meeting on offensive security with and without AI. Cybersecurity Summit is coming up in November 20th. Free code to sign up, CSS 25-OWASP. And our last meeting of the year in December is a virtual meeting by Carolyn Wong. And we're going to raffle off a few copies of her future book that's going to be published in 2026. So be sure to participate. Again, thank you very much for joining us.